Alright, so this is the speedrun of patch 12.7. Let's see what they changed. Gangplank, okay. So his passive burn deals a little bit more damage. I mean, not a little bit, a lot more damage later on, right? It scales with levels. Early on it's the same thing, so he won't bully you harder as he did before, right? His mana cost is a little bit lower on his W, 20 per level, which generally means that he can heal a little more with his W. Since his W costs less mana, it means he can spam you with his Q a bit more often, right? So I assume this 20 mana does a little bit, right? It's just 20 mana, but let's say like if you get 2 rotations of W's off, you will pay 120 mana and not like 140, right? So if you use multiple rotations of W's, then essentially the 20 mana value gonna be, let's say like his sustain is a little bit better, right? You can spam it like once, twice more, right? Okay. Aside of that, like for example in here, like 80 mana cost, right? Now it's 20 less, it's 60. So if you use the orange 3 times, that equals 20 x3, right? Multiplied by 3 is 60. So you get like a fourth off for free. Something like that, right? Okay. So it's just a quality change of buff or Gangplank, right? I mean, who doesn't hate Gangplank? I don't know why does he get buffed, but apparently he's weak by Riot's opinion. I mean, yes, that happens. Like, here's the thing, like, if you're not really skilled with Gangplank, I assume you can, like, struggle with the champion, you know? But, alright. So, cooldown gets a bit up, a bit faster with 10 seconds, and her ultimate is faster up on rotation with 100 seconds. Not 100 seconds, 20 seconds, which means early on with 20, 10, and yeah, the last one doesn't scale with anything, which means like champions like Tryndamere will fall off harder to these nerfs because right now her having her ultimate up on rotation with 20 seconds early on means that if you are a champion that has like 120 cooldown on your ultimate, she has it like 20 seconds earlier, so if both of you guys ult at the same time, she will have like it up like 20 seconds earlier. Will this make Gwen viable again? I mean, you have it up on rotation with 20 seconds faster than with 10, so you're a bit more dangerous, I assume, when your ultimate is up, right? It's faster on rotation. Cooldown refund upon the first basic attack is 60 from 50. I mean, it comes up slightly faster, you know, so you can spam it a little more. I assume in some matchups it could matter when you have more points on it, and the cooldown is generally lower because you maybe have it up, like let's say maybe you're facing an Aatrox and before his third Q arrives, then you ease up on rotation to dodge it, right? Or maybe you're facing some type of skill shot matchups like Ornn. Ornn is a really good example, right? For example, you go in with your E or ults. I mean, you can dodge his ultimate with your W as well, realistically, but you can E away and W away, right? Which means that it's more likely that you're gonna dodge something with your E, right? And you have a bit more DPS since you have it up faster on rotation, right? With 10 percentage, right? So it does a little bit of something, right? I'm not sure if this will fix the champion. I feel like it doesn't, but we'll see. So Jace nerfs, I mean, or buffs, he gets a bit more HP, okay? So his HP growth is buffed by 5, right? His base HP is lowered by 40, okay? And his armor is less with 5, but the scaling is a little bit upper. Armor at level 18 is unchanged. So this is like a nerf for Jace because here's the thing, like he's a hard scaling champion and he can deal with a lots of like AD top lane matchups. Like he doesn't even have to beat them, kill them, but he can. That's the problem. Like he can like beat some matchups, right? And he scales way better than like most of the top laners, right, in the current meta. So generally his weakness should be that his early game is weaker because a lot of scaling champions like Gale or something of that sort, they usually have a weaker early game, right? So a champion that's so good when someone is really skilled at it, right, and has such a good early game, right? Like he has a decent early game and he can even have a kill pressure on people, means that his early game should be significantly weaker because of his insane scaling, right? Okay, this is just an early game nerf, right? Then his HP is slightly higher on the max level, right? But this doesn't really matter too much. So basically 5 less armor. It's like 5 percentage, 5 percentage around that. He takes bonus damage, right? Base mana, movement speed and attack speed growth increased, alright? So base mana is up with 50, right? So I assume that means that Kalista can get maybe 1 Q up on rotation. Um, I think her Q costs like how much, 50 mana, something like that, right? So with this 50 mana, you get like one more Q off, I assume, right? And that Q might just be lethal. So let's see the Q. See, yeah, it's actually 50 mana early on. Later on, it costs more, so that helps to some degree, right? Movement speed, this is a decent buff because she likes to move around left and right, you know. Now her attack speed growth is a bit more decent, right? So 4.5, so from 4 percentage to 4, which means 4.5, let's say she's level 10, or yeah, let's say she's level 10, then she gets a little bit more than she did before. So at level 10 he gets 45, right? And he would normally only get 40. I mean, you get at level 10 you get like 5 more attack speed. I mean, it does a little bit of something, right? It feels like when you're moving and attacking, you can kite a little bit smoother with the movement speed, and with the attack speed, it just makes him a bit more smooth as a champion, right? I think Kalista is a fine champion in this patch. Like, I wouldn't say he's bad. So they are buffing back Karthus apparently for literally the same reason they nerfed him. Although Karthus has a decent enough clear, so I mean, this actually makes him really strong though. Makes him a bit stronger at like his general clear, right? His first clear will be probably something similar as it is right now, but maybe you can chip off like few seconds. I'm not sure how much exactly, but it's better, I assume, when you actually have some AP, and it's better to like have this objective control with it, like taking Drake's bigger objectives like Drake's Baron Herald, then in there that 10 percentage like bonus AP can actually matter, right? Base AD decreased, Q base damage decreased. I mean, finally Lee Sin is getting a nerf, right? Um, like who doesn't just gets rolled over by Lee Sin, right? So his base AD is lower with 2. That's something. Sonic wave damage, alright. So 5, 5, 5, 5, 5. Okay. Resonating strike minimum damage gonna be 5, 5, 5, 5 less, right? And in here 10, 10 less, 10 less. So 2 less AD, 5 less base damage, and 10 less damage on the maximum damage, right? I mean, this definitely does something to the champion, right? It's just like 15 less damage minus like 2 damage. He will deal slightly less damage. I don't think so this will kill the champion. Maybe, I assume there is a word where you don't clear raptors just because you with your E, just because you don't have like 2 less AD, then your clear is weaker. I'm not quite sure like what does this 2 AD affect him, right? But once you get items and get some kills, this nerf doesn't really matter too much. I think this nerf matters if you are even or behind, but if you are ahead, I don't feel like it should matter. Okay. So healing against champions is 12, 140. And now the AP ratio is up with 8. That's a buff. That's a decent buff, I assume. Okay. Watch out, Eep. So it went up with 10, 10, 10, but basically with 10, right? And the AP ratio is the same, so you have 10 more damage, right? And you get like 8 percentage more damage. Essentially it means that people will play more often than Lilia, I assume. Like she wasn't even before this buffs like bad as a champion. Yeah, I think like we will see more Liliat, and if there is like a patch about her, right? Shapeshifter, why does Nico get buffed though? Why does Nico get buffed? Passive bonus damage, right? 50, 70, 90, 110, 130, 50, 80, 10, 110, 147, 170. Oh, that's a lot of that's a lot of late game damage. Um, Apparently at the time for the same reason like Nico was nerfed because of his W on hit build. So she gets a little bit, maybe W maxing and going on hit uh, will be a thing again. Nico been hiding from pro play despite being strong tomato in solo queue. Her only on hit build was quite popular in past meta, so we are bringing it back to lure the curious chameleon out of the so this is the exactly same reason they nerfed her, because of her on hit synergy, right? Now maybe people are gonna play her again on hit, or I mean, I assume even if you play her AP, it should be completely fine, right? You can just test it out for yourself. Now, this makes on hit a bit better, especially in later levels. Um, like at level, when you have 3 points in it, it's a bit better, right? It gets progressively better and better, right? But I still feel like AP build is still better when it comes to one-shot people, right? Like I assume on top lane you can go probably on hit, right? So Pantheon, he gets a little bit less HP, base health regeneration. So the length is longer, but the width is smaller. It's kind of sus. So it allows you to have, I assume, better like lane trades with your Q. Although the width is a bit smaller, so it's a bit easier to sidestep then, right? Which is kind of like can be a problem as well, right? Like it can be longer if its width is not too big, because you might miss it, right? Now, if you have a good precision with your Q and it has a bit of a longer range, it allows you to have better laning trades, right? Like 50 range, it does matter on top lane, right? Because it's easier to outrange a Darius Q with your own Q on Pantheon, right? So it allows you to go for better trades like a Seti. It's easier to outrange a Seti, right? Um, it helps a little bit on top trades in mid lane. I don't know if it really matters. I don't feel like it should, from my personal opinion. I think it really affects top lane and these short trading matchups on other lanes. I don't know if it really does matter too much. Maybe I assume you can sneak in a Q on like a mage on mid lane, but I don't know. Don't know if this really helps a lot. Pantheon is no longer slowed if he's moving backwards. This will help a lot because it's easier to disengage, right? Crash landing on you. Pantheon now crashes down in his devastation in 0.25 seconds sooner. So he arrives a little bit faster, so people don't get out of the of your ultimate too quickly. But 0.25 seconds. Um, Maybe there is a world where that actually helps the champion's ultimate, right? So like less than a half second. I don't even know how to feel about some of these patch notes, right? Because all of them are like softer buffs, right? So Q Savagery bonus damage is reduced by 40% against structures. Now it will be still strong against structures, but it's good that they nerfed it, because if this champion gets ahead in solo queue, he's like wiping your towers faster than a Trundle or Yorick does when he's ahead with his lethality crit build, right? Bonus damage against monsters is a bit higher. This allows him to get way better early clears. I assume this is a decent buff, right? Okay. So Overload. Rise again gets nerfed, but like nobody plays him though. So apparently this is a nerf, I assume, towards the Philboom winter build, so people don't build it on him as so often as they would go for like another build. So Rise tank builds, yeah, Rise tank builds make him safe, yet a potent split pusher by allowing him to stack health and dealing with carry levels of damage, making him particularly lethal in pro play. Yeah. Yeah, like Philboom Winter, like at the time there was like a tank AP Rise build, right? And for the same reason Rise got nerfed, right? I mean his builds or him, I don't remember, and now they added it back with Philboom Winter, and now he gets nerfed for the same reason, so I'm not sure if like Riot is learning enough out of his past, right? So 70, 90, 110, 130, 150. So the base damage doesn't seem to change all a lot, right? The AP ratio is a bit higher, the mana ratio is lower, which is kind of a bummer, right? Well, it just simply means that Riot is trying to force Rise away from going Philboom Winter, Not sure if this is enough, but it could be, right? It could be. So Wukong finally gets a buff, like this monkey gets out of his cage, cause like I don't know, like this champion just nobody plays him because he's just so off meta right now. So his Q it's up a little bit faster on rotation, but I think these buffs are just scope. Like I feel like these are just scope buffs. So because the problem is usually you max Q or E, and then you max W last. So adding cooldown on it, like cooldown reduction, I don't think so. It makes it potent enough to max your W. Wukong can now dash through terrain, which is kind of good, which is really good, right? But I don't know like how to feel about this, because like buffing its cooldown, it's kind of useless because you have to put points in it, and they generally max Q or E. So I don't know if it will, like this doesn't really makes it worth to max W. So this is only good when you maxed out E and Q. So you have it up a little bit faster with 1 second your Q on rotation, right? Like you're gonna spam auto attack, you're gonna use your ultimate, you have it like 1 second up faster. I assume it does something in laning phase on top lane. In jungle your clears are a little bit faster. Side of that is clear is getting buffed a little bit again with the 80% like bonus damage to monsters. Now even their AP ratio got buffed for some reason, but I'm not sure like is AP Wukong a thing, I don't think so, right? So this basically means his jungler clearing is better, right? Like jungle clear is better, and his laning phase is a tiny bit better. He can still camps more easily if he's dominating top lane. Not sure if this will make actually the champion really viable. Probably it needs some type of testing. Maybe he will be good enough now to play in jungle after the Q and E buffs. But the problem is there are just simply better junglers than Wukong, even if his clear gets optimized. So that's like the problem with it. So yeah, so early game is a little bit weak apparently. They rebuff his HP, his base HP, right? And his ultimate has less cooldown per level. It means he will have 30 more HP, which is like less than an auto attack damage, right? Like half of an auto attack damage buff, and he gets like 10, he gets like 5 and 30 the same. So basically he has it up faster on rotation. His ultimate, which matters in some matchups, basically makes you a little bit more dangerous at 10. You have a bit more HP, you're a bit, but there's not much to say. Your early game is a tiny bit better, right? This buff actually doesn't even matters until you get like level 11 and like 16, right? 10 seconds and 20 seconds. So I assume in some late game scenarios this is the 20 seconds are good, where you have a Drake fight, you fight for a little bit, you recall, you walk to Baron, then your ultimate is almost up, so that helps, right, to some degree. But the 10 seconds in here on second level, I don't think so it does much. Like you legit wait 10 seconds and it's up, so it just makes him a little bit more dangerous, like above like level 11. So I guess that helps to some degree. AD growth, Zeri gets nerfed, cause who doesn't hate Zeri, right? Yep, so attack damage scaling gets nerfed, good. AD growth gets AD growth gets nerfed, good. Base armor gets nerfed, good. Health gets a bit bigger, but per level, right? So you really made me to read a lot, Riot Games. Total physical damage 10, 15, 20, 25, 30, 7, 9, 11 through. There's a lot to read. So his AD scaling is better, right? Which means people will probably go crit right now. Q burst fire now applies on hit effects once per cast. What does that even mean? It applies on hit effects once per cast. Like didn't it do it all the time? Like could you apply multiple? Oh, now I get it actually. So basically I think it means that you can't apply like both Trinity Force and Ruaun's Hurricane. You can only apply one of them. So basically it means going Essence River will be probably the go-to on Zeri right now. I think that's what it means, that, yeah. So you can only apply one apparently. I mean, that's a weird change. It's kind of weird. Kind of weird because you can go both Essence and Rounds, or I don't even know. So Zeri can now gain 1 stack of R Lightning Crash and 1 instance of E Spark Surge cooldown reduction per Q burst fire. Zeri can now only gain one stack of R right lightning cash on one instance of E sparks. Also, even if you like burst fire to true targets with your E, you only get one stack, right? Cooldown reduction per Q burst fire cast, excluding critical strikes. Okay. Double the shock. Okay. Critical strikes on Q burst fire. Zeri an additional wait, burst fire grants Zeri an additional air lightning crash. Also, if he crits, he gets more cash stack and an additional instance of E spark surge cooldown reduction. So basically they want Zeri to go crit, so it means she's squishy, killable, but she has more damage, right? So this pushes Zeri towards the crit build, and finally Riot probably fixed the champion. But now the champ might be too broken with a crit build, who knows, right? So her AD ratio, AP ratio gets higher. I mean, AP Zeri is actually fun and viable, from my opinion, at least in solo queue. Her AD ratio gets higher. This means this is like rather a crit build oriented buff, I assume, right? You get more AD ratios, your base damage is lower, right? Okay, so this will affect her early game. Her early game is a bit gutted right now, and her scaling is it's a bit stronger, I assume, at some item spikes, right? Oh my god, they actually really nerfed the champion apparently. So y'all remember when this had like 18 cooldown or something? Now it has 28, 16, and oof, that's a lot. Because like it's so difficult for people to even like collapse on her as a jungler on bot lane, because she just eats through the blast cone wall, or on top lane she just eats away through the wall, she just eats away, she kites you. Like it's difficult to deal with her, like it's just really annoying, right? But this will cut some of her DPS as well, right? Her cooldown, right, gets a bit higher, 20 seconds, 5 and 70, so with 20 seconds is less up on rotation. If you compare it to other AD carry ultimates that are faster up from 120 seconds, then this will help, because you can pressure more for 20 seconds, if assumingly you use it at the same time. Unmake magic resist reduction 5%, capped at 25 bonus health. So you get like a bit more magic resistance, reduction, right? Magic resist reduction, and the cap is 25, so maybe there is a world where people will use it. Abyssal Mask has taken a backseat to Force of Nature in terms of magic. Yes. Abyssal Mask passive would make to help it stand out aggressive tank options. I will maybe build it actually on Rumble just to limit test it. Ultra is 5, magic resistant is HP. I don't think so it fixes the item. But I assume maybe Kassadin players or some type of like Zac, maybe on Zac it could work as an offensive option, right? Against AP champs. So I assume there is a world where it might be a bit more useful, but I don't think so this fixes the item, that's the thing. As an offensive magic resist item it could do something, right? Gale Force finally gets nerfed because 90 seconds is just so low. And especially like some AD carries are going even for Ingenious Hunter, which means it has basically even lower cooldown, like them having a second flash up than most of the ultimates being up on rotation is a bit broken, because like I don't know, maybe if I type like Malphite for example, Gale Force can counter Malphite because his ultimate is counterable with Gale Force dash, right? Aside of that, like generally Malphite has like usually more cooldown than Gale Force does, except if he reaches like a certain like cooldown spike or level. So for example, if you don't have any cooldown in Malphite, your ultimate is 130, right? And now if you buy some cooldown on Malphite, right, or get some levels, at some point of the game your ultimate will be faster up on rotation than a Gale Force, which means marksmen are a little bit more vulnerable, because it's actually so annoying that they escape just because they have a Gale Force up every time on rotation. Like 90 seconds is just so low for such a strong like extra flash item, right? So as Riot Games said, to give opponents a larger window to punish scaling marksmen before they reach their end game. Yeah, like this is a good buff from my honest opinion. Umbral Glaive, okay, gets a decent buff. Blackout cooldown is less, and gold less. So basically, I assume you could even go first item, like you buy it with futures market. I think there is a world where Assassin is gonna first item Umbral Glaive, because it's good to like to deny vision with it, and basically it's such a cheap item in these days, and it provides 50 AD 10 lethality cooldown, like it might be able to first item it because it's so cheap, and in these days assassins have like what bounty hunter, first strike, they have their futures market, which means that if you get some kills early on, you full clear, maybe you get a scuttle scrap. There is a world where you can like buy it on the first recall if you get some kills beside the full clearing and getting maybe scuttle, right? Or maybe on the second recall you could get it, right? Which means that it's gonna be a really dangerous item, right? And it's really good to reveal wards as well because you have it up 10 seconds earlier, right? Gonna be good in lower heroes as well, whereas assassins usually don't buy Oracle, I assume. And then they just reveal the wards so they don't have to step on them. I think this is a decent buff, right? Okay, so total cost is 270. Combined cost is 110, so it costs a little bit more, a little bit less HP, so I guess Rise gets nerfed. Yes, I mean, some people use this item, but I'm not a big fan of. Okay, Time Warp Tonic. Immediate health is less, so people don't fall for the biscuits corrupting potion funny. And for the it has less movement speed. ARAM, I mean, basically nobody cares. Content, I mean, this is just like, I mean, these are some bug fixes, but I'm actually kinda lazy to read them. Some bug fixes give a new mechanic to a champion or remove a mechanic sometimes. But I mean, basically if you... Oh, well, actually this matters. Fix the bug where action second attack would gain 2 stacks of lethal tempo. Oh, and I even wanted to play action with lethal tempo, but I didn't play it so far. And like, actually this thing been in the game for 3 or 4 patches actually so far. And it felt like it was intentional because in 2 auto attacks lethal tempo was actually stacked completely up, which means that range allow you to bully. Fix the bug where Tamkench could devour an ally champion from a bush, and upon being spat out the champion would be invisible. Okay. Fix the bug where treasure hunter tooltip would show 170 gold bounty available depth side having already claimed the bounty on all enemy champions. Okay. Fix the bug with caused to become stuck inside of Mordekaiser's death realm. It was cast on Tamkinch. Yeah. That's just bug fixes and all that. Fix the bug where Warwick's Q-Job beast would sometimes have no cooldown if it... Yeah, I noticed one. I think we all notice bugs in here now from YouTube. Yep. Yeah, I guess usually just like bug fixes, like who cares, right? Skins. There's some cool skins, right? Arcana, right? Arcane, Arcana. I guess that's it for now. Like, I speedrun the patch as fast as I could, but there is something I need to stop, you know, for sometimes.